Home buying is so fun, and it is so awesome, and it is so stressful. It's like getting married or getting divorced or having a baby. Like, it's one of those really big life events. I'm excited today to discuss tips for first-time home buyers. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the video because I'm dropping something really, really huge that you will not want to miss out on. If you're new to the channel, my name is Stephanie, and I've been helping customers for over 18 years with their mortgage financing. And I'm passionate about spreading mortgage and homebuyer education across the U.S., even though I'm a licensed loan officer only in certain states, currently Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. First-time homebuyer tip number 1. This is huge. Be fully, I'll say it one more time, fully transparent with your loan officer. If there's anything that you're thinking, oh my gosh, I wonder if they're going to find out, they will, and it will likely be at the last minute, a big surprise and a big disaster. So if there's anything that you're wondering, should I tell my loan officer? You really should. I say it's almost like a marriage or like a therapy session. Like, we've got to be your advocate, and we can only help you if you give us all the information that you can so that we know what we're dealing with and we know how to best advise you as a consumer trying to get your loan approved. The next thing is, please make sure that you fill out your loan application very, very complete, very, very accurate, and always round down with your numbers, meaning if you're not just a straight, easy, I make this much money per month, maybe if it's can fluctuate, then take an average and downplay it a little bit. Don't list on there the best month or best year that you had. When it comes to your bank account, the same thing. Make sure that whatever you list on that application, we're gonna be able to confirm that through the most recent 2 months bank statements with no missing pages and no large and unusual deposits, no cash, things like that. So if you list you've got $5,000, want to make sure that we can see and validate and verify $5,000. The next thing is, everything's an emergency when it comes to pre-approval and home loans, everything. So if they need a document from you, a license from you, an answer from you, get it fast, reply fast. Fast speed is everything. It's going to be your friend in this situation. Another thing you can expect when you're going through the home buying purchase is you're probably going to get calls from unknown numbers. Until you close on your house, answer every single phone call as fast as you can, return it as fast as you can, and it might be from a number you don't recognize. Not only do you talk to your loan officer, but you typically also will talk to a processor. At some companies, you'll talk to even more people than that. Sometimes the credit bureau will call to do conference calls to verify information or update information on the credit report. You've got home insurance companies that might be calling to give you quotes or answer your questions, or go ahead and firm up the home insurance choice. You might have a title company, or you will have a title company that's calling you to verify marital status, full legal name, and other information as well, and those can all come from numbers that you don't recognize. If you're new to the channel, my name is Stephanie, and I have been a loan officer for over 18 years and helped thousands of people with their home financing. I built this channel on anything and everything mortgage education to help you have the best experience you can and reach all of your home ownership goals. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit the like button if you're enjoying the video today, and also please hit the bell to be notified every time I drop new videos, which is every week. If you might get a gift from a family member, make sure that you prepare that family member for the fact that there's gonna have to be paperwork and documentation that's provided to trail that money. There are so many times that we're dealing with gifts when it comes to home purchases, and the donor gets very angry at the loan officer for all the documentation they're asking for, but it's really not the loan officer, it's the guidelines, whether it be RD, FHA, VA, or conventional, which they all can have different guidelines on how they trail a gift. But what happens is if we can't paper trail that gift by following the guidelines, then that money doesn't count. And if you have enough money that where it doesn't matter, fantastic. But a lot of times that money is really needed to verify the cash to close in order to get to a closing and get that loan approval. So make sure they have a good heads up on that and apologize to them in advance. Let's say that you have cash that you've deposited into your bank account. That's going to be fine again as long as we can paper trail it. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you sold a 2000 Honda Foreman four-wheeler, okay? Then and $6,000 went into your bank account. Well, what we need to do is get proof that the $6,000 came from the buyer. We need to get proof of the fully executed bill of sale. We would need something printed out from the internet that shows the value of that bike to make sure that it wasn't like a $1,000 bike that you sold to a friend for $6,000 to try to somehow work around or circumvent the requirements. Those are typically some of the things that would be needed. A potential way around that has been allowed is what's called meeting the seasoning requirements, which means that when we get those 2 months bank statements and we're verifying how much money that you have, if that deposit no longer shows up on those bank statements because maybe it was the third bank statement backwards, that money is seasoned and it's acceptable. But what I do find is most of the time that this is happening, it's all seeming to happen within that 60 days of what we're looking at. So you want to be careful of that and prepare for that with all of the required paperwork. Make sure you're doing that right. I'm so sorry about that. The next thing is be prepared if you're in a community property state. Sometimes this can cause some headache if, let's say, maybe your spouse does not plan on being on the loan for some reason. A lot of times it has to do with maybe the spouse's credit, but that's not always just the case. In community property states, unless there's a prenup, it's required that the non-borrowing spouse, that we get their credit report. We have to get their written permission to get their credit report, and that we get their credit report, and that we have to count, in some instances, all the debt against your budget, even though they're not on the loan. And in some instances, we can get away with just counting revolving, depending upon the specific lender and depending upon the specific loan type as well. Now, in that instance, we never care what their credit scores are. We never care if they don't even have a credit score. It's just a matter of that community property debt, and this only applies in those community property states. So keep an eye out for that. The next thing is you'll become familiar with something that's called either an earnest money deposit or EMD, or a deposit on the contract. Some states call it different things, and some areas even call it different things. But when you and the seller agree to terms and they agree to sell for what you agree to buy for, you will give what's typically called a good faith deposit. I've seen that be such a huge variety of numbers. I've even seen it be zero. Most of the time it seems to be around $1,000 or $2,000 that you're giving in good faith that you do plan to proceed with that home purchase. You want to make sure that that money's coming from your bank account because it is verified. So remember we talked about a gift earlier. Let's say if maybe your grandma wrote that check for you. Well, then if we can't verify to give you credit at closing for that deposit, let's say it's $1,000, if we can't verify that that came from your bank account, maybe it came from grandma's, then that whole gift process comes into play. So you want to be prepared for that. Home buying is so fun, and it is so awesome, and it is so stressful. It's like getting married or getting divorced or having a baby. Like, it's one of those really big life events. So what you want to do to have the best experience is be as calm as you can, be as respectful as you can to your lender, because sometimes the things we have to ask for can be really frustrating, and everything's an emergency, like I said earlier as well. That's inconvenient when you're trying to work and maybe you do have kids or maybe you do have a family or whatever, and we're asking you for all this paperwork to pull, or to have conferences with the credit bureau, or to have conferences with the title company. You want to make sure that you make it a priority to devote the time that's needed. Be patient, be persistent, be direct, be clear, be honest, and be transparent. That way you can have the best experience possible and be able to meet all of your homeownership goals. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. I appreciate your time immeasurably. I know how hard time is to come by, and thank you so much for spending it with me. I hope you've enjoyed the content today, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, thanks for hanging in there with me. As promised, I've got something really exciting. I've been selling my first-time home buyer course, the ultimate guide of mortgage education, basically, for $597, and I'm gonna drop a link below this video for you to purchase it for only $97. I am beyond excited about it. Not only will it help you put a great loan together to get an approval, but should also help you with a smooth and on-time closing.